Imagine an outboard engine so rare that collectors argue if it ever existed, or one so exclusive that only a handful were ever built. These 15 four-stroke outboards are the holy grails of the nautical world. From prototype powerhouses that never saw mass production to limited edition masterpieces that cost more than most boats, they're as elusive as they are extraordinary. One might be hidden in a forgotten warehouse, another could be the crown jewel of a billionaire's yacht collection. And the rarest engine? Let's just say finding one is like discovering a unicorn with a propeller. Stick around because boating history's most coveted secrets are about to surface. One of the rarest production four-stroke outboard ever made, the Seven Marine 627. This isn't just rare, it's mythical. Only a few hundred of these titanium beasts were ever built before production ceased in 2018. Born from a collaboration between Seven Marine and General Motors, this monster features a 6.2-liter supercharged V8 borrowed directly from the Cadillac CTS-V. Someone literally looked at an $80,000 sports car engine and said, "Let's make it push boats." At $77,000 each, these engines cost more than most people's entire boats. The 627 delivered 627 horsepower of pure, unfiltered aquatic fury. Hand-assembled in small batches, each engine was practically custom-built. Owners treated these like sacred relics, pampered, polished, and never loaned to friends. When Seven Marine folded, these engines became instant legends. Finding one today is like discovering automotive performance art floating at the dock. They represent the ultimate expression of money is no object, marine engineering. From automotive excess to forgotten pioneers, our next engine represents a piece of history that almost nobody remembers existed. Here's one that'll blow your mind. Tohatsu built four-stroke outboards in 1956, 8 years before Honda's famous GB30. But here's the catch. Almost nobody knows they existed. These experimental engines were built in tiny numbers as development prototypes, testing the waters for four-stroke technology when the entire industry was obsessed with two-stroke simplicity. Tohatsu's engineers quietly experimented with overhead valve designs, electronic ignition, and fuel injection concepts that wouldn't become mainstream for decades. The few surviving examples are scattered across private collections and corporate museums, jealously guarded secrets of marine history. These engines featured innovations that were decades ahead of their time. Aluminum construction, precision carburation, and reliability that put contemporary two-strokes to shame. Most were destroyed during testing or scrapped when the project was shelved in favor of conventional two-stroke development. Finding documentation about these engines requires serious research. Finding an actual engine is like discovering a time machine. They prove that sometimes the best ideas arrive too early for the world to appreciate them. If these forgotten legends have you hooked, smash that subscribe button because we're just getting started. Comment below if you've ever seen one of these Tohatsu prototypes. We bet you haven't. Let's keep digging into marine history's rarest treasures. In 1928, while the world was dancing to jazz and building skyscrapers, a small company called Roness was quietly building some of the first four-stroke outboards ever conceived. These engines were so far ahead of their time that most people thought they were mechanical curiosities rather than serious propulsion. Roness four-strokes featured genuine automotive-style engineering, overhead valves, precision machining, and build quality that put contemporary outboards to shame. They were expensive, complex, and absolutely revolutionary. The company built perhaps a few hundred engines before economic realities forced them back to conventional designs. What makes Roness engines extraordinarily rare today is that most were scrapped during World War II metal drives or simply wore out from decades of use by owners who didn't understand their historical significance. The few survivors are scattered across the collections of serious marine historians who understand that these engines represent the actual birth of four-stroke outboard technology. They're not just rare, they're archaeological treasures that prove innovation often arrives decades before the world is ready to embrace it. From early pioneering efforts to wartime innovation, our next engine represents a chapter of marine history that was literally classified for decades. During the height of the Cold War, the US Navy commissioned development of ultra-quiet four-stroke outboards for special operations. These classified engines were built in tiny numbers by various contractors, designed to move Special Forces teams without the telltale sound signature of conventional two-strokes. Features included advanced muffling systems, electronic ignition, and fuel injection technology that wouldn't appear in civilian outboards for another 2 decades. Most were destroyed after use or classified beyond public access, but a few examples survived in military surplus sales or private collections. The Navy's requirements for stealth operation drove innovations in combustion efficiency, vibration control, and electronic management that influenced civilian outboard development for years. Finding one today requires connections in military surplus circles and serious documentation of its provenance. They're not just rare, they're pieces of classified history that demonstrate how military requirements often drive civilian innovation. From military secrets to civilian exclusivity, our next engine represents the ultimate in limited production luxury that most boaters never knew existed. In the 1990s, Chriscraft quietly commissioned a run of ultra-luxury four-stroke outboards for its most elite custom builds. Engines so rare and refined, they were never officially marketed. Developed in secret with a Japanese manufacturing partner, fewer than 50 were ever made. Each was hand-built to exacting Chriscraft specifications, featuring custom finishes, precision-tuned performance, and technology drawn from Formula One, aerospace, and high-end automotive design. With carbon fiber, titanium, and advanced engine management, these outboards weren't just power plants, they were mechanical masterpieces. The cost? Astronomical. More than most luxury cars. These engines only appeared on flagship Chriscraft models, often stored in climate-controlled marinas or yacht clubs where they remain today. Polished, preserved, and revered. Occasionally, one surfaces at auction, fetching prices higher than an entire new boat. They weren't built to be practical. They were built to be perfect. Today, they stand as the ultimate symbol of ultra-exclusive marine engineering, rare, opulent, and almost mythical. While Chriscraft was building floating luxury, another manufacturer was creating an engine so exclusive that it never left the prototype stage. 5 years before Honda introduced VTEC to marine applications, Yamaha was secretly developing their own revolutionary V8 four-stroke prototype. This experimental engine featured technology that wouldn't appear in production outboards for over a decade: direct injection, variable valve timing, and electronic throttle control. Yamaha built fewer than 10 of these engines for testing purposes, pushing the boundaries of what four-stroke technology could achieve. The experimental V8 delivered over 300 horsepower from a package that weighed less than contemporary 200 horsepower two-strokes. Advanced materials, precision manufacturing, and innovations borrowed from Yamaha's motorcycle racing programs created an engine that felt like marine technology from the future. Internal politics and market research convinced Yamaha that the marine market wasn't ready for such advanced technology, so the project was shelved. Most prototypes were destroyed, but a few survived in Yamaha's corporate collection and private hands of former engineers. These engines prove that sometimes the most innovative ideas arrive years before the market is ready to embrace them. Finding one today requires connections deep within Yamaha's corporate structure or serious luck at estate sales of former employees. From Japanese innovation to American ambition, our next engine represents Mercury's most exclusive and least known four-stroke experiment. At the turn of the millennium, Mercury Racing was secretly developing what could have been the ultimate four-stroke racing outboard, the 300X. This prototype engine represented Mercury's most ambitious engineering project ever attempted, combining lessons from automotive racing, aerospace technology, and marine performance applications. The 300X featured a sophisticated V8 design with advanced supercharging, electronic fuel injection, and materials that included carbon fiber, titanium, and exotic alloys. Mercury built fewer than 5 complete engines before the project was cancelled due to cost and market concerns. Each engine represented hundreds of thousands of dollars in development costs and hand assembly by Mercury's most skilled technicians. The 300X incorporated technology that wouldn't appear in production outboards for another 2 decades: fly-by-wire throttle control, advanced engine management, and integration with GPS and autopilot systems. Internal testing showed performance that exceeded every benchmark, but Mercury's management decided the marine market wasn't ready for such extreme technology. The few surviving engines are locked away in Mercury's corporate vaults or private collections of former racing team owners. They represent the ultimate what-if in marine propulsion development. While Mercury was pushing boundaries in secret, another manufacturer was creating an engine so exclusive that it redefined luxury boating forever. During the 1980s, Italian luxury boat manufacturer Rever commissioned the development of ultra-exclusive four-stroke outboards for their most expensive custom yachts. These engines were built in partnership with Ferrari's engine division, incorporating technology from Formula One racing and exotic automotive applications. Fewer than 20 engines were ever completed, each one essentially a work of art disguised as marine propulsion. The Rever engines featured hand-polished components, exotic materials, and performance tuning that took months to complete. Each engine was painted to match the specific yacht it would power, with custom badging and finishing that cost more than most people's boats. Advanced fuel injection, electronic ignition, and materials like magnesium and titanium created outboards that weighed less than conventional engines while delivering significantly more power. The engines incorporated lessons learned from Ferrari's racing programs, including advanced combustion chamber design, precision manufacturing, and quality control that bordered on obsessive. Most remain attached to their original Rever yachts, stored in private collections where they're treated like floating museums. The few that have appeared at auction command prices that reflect their status as functional art. They represent the ultimate marriage of Italian design and engineering excellence. From Italian artistry to German precision, our next engine represents the ultimate expression of Teutonic engineering excellence in marine form. In 1985, BMW quietly developed a series of experimental four-stroke outboards based on their successful motorcycle engines. These prototype engines were never intended for public sale, but represented BMW's exploration of marine market opportunities during their diversification efforts. The BMW Marine engines featured technology borrowed from their motorsports programs: advanced fuel injection, electronic ignition, and precision manufacturing that reflected BMW's reputation for engineering excellence. Fewer than a dozen engines were ever completed, each one hand-built by BMW's motorsports division using exotic materials and components. The engines incorporated innovations that wouldn't appear in production outboards for decades. electronic engine management, variable valve timing, and materials like carbon fiber and titanium. BMW's engineers approached marine propulsion with the same obsessive attention to detail that characterized their automotive products, creating outboards that felt more like precision instruments than simple propulsion devices. The project was cancelled when BMW decided to focus on their core automotive business, but the few surviving engines represent some of the most advanced marine technology ever created. Most remain in BMW's corporate collection or private hands of former engineers who understood their historical significance. They prove that sometimes the most innovative solutions come from outside the traditional industry boundaries. While BMW was engineering precision, another manufacturer was creating an engine that would become the stuff of legends among collectors. In 1955, Scott Atwater secretly developed what might have been the first modern four-stroke outboard. But corporate politics and financial constraints killed the project before it could reach production. These experimental engines featured innovations that wouldn't appear in mainstream outboards for decades: electronic fuel injection, overhead valve design, and aluminum construction that made them lighter than contemporary two-strokes. Scott Atwater built fewer than 20 prototype engines, each one representing thousands of hours of development work by their most talented engineers. The engines incorporated technology borrowed from automotive racing and aviation applications, creating performance characteristics that exceeded everything else available. Advanced carburation, precision manufacturing, and quality control created outboards that ran smoother and more efficiently than anything else on the water. When Scott Atwater was acquired by McCulloch, the four-stroke program was immediately cancelled in favor of conventional two-stroke development. Most prototype engines were destroyed, but a few survived in private collections and corporate archives. These engines represent one of marine history's greatest what-ifs. Proof that the four-stroke revolution could have started in the 1950s rather than the 1960s. Finding one today requires connections deep within collector circles and serious documentation of its provenance. From American innovation to Japanese exclusivity, our next engine represents the ultimate expression of limited production engineering excellence. Long before Honda introduced four-stroke outboards to the public, their racing division was secretly developing ultra-high-performance marine engines for competitive applications. These prototype engines were built in tiny numbers for selected racing teams, incorporating technology from Honda's Formula One and motorcycle racing programs. The HRD four-strokes featured advanced fuel injection, electronic ignition, and materials that wouldn't appear in production engines for decades. Each engine was essentially hand-built by Honda's most skilled technicians, with performance tuning that took weeks to complete. The engines incorporated lessons learned from Honda's racing programs, precision manufacturing, exotic materials, and innovations that pushed the boundaries of what four-stroke technology could achieve. Advanced combustion chamber design, variable valve timing, and electronic engine management created performance that exceeded every contemporary racing outboard. Most engines were destroyed after racing seasons or returned to Honda for development purposes, but a few survived in private collections of former racing team owners. These engines prove that Honda's commitment to four-stroke technology began decades before their first civilian outboards appeared. Finding one today requires connections deep within Honda's racing community and documentation that proves its authentic racing heritage. They represent the ultimate expression of Honda's racing DNA in marine form. While Honda was dominating racing circuits, another manufacturer was creating an engine so exclusive that it never left the development laboratory. In a shocking twist of marine history, Evanrude, the company most associated with two-stroke technology, secretly developed advanced four-stroke prototypes in the mid-1990s. These experimental engines represented Evanrude's hedge against increasingly strict emissions regulations and changing market preferences. The prototypes featured technology that combined Evanrude's deep understanding of outboard design with cutting-edge four-stroke innovations borrowed from automotive applications. Advanced direct injection, electronic engine management, and materials like carbon fiber created engines that delivered performance comparable to their legendary two-strokes while meeting environmental standards that wouldn't be implemented for years. Fewer than 15 prototype engines were ever completed before corporate politics and financial constraints killed the program in favor of advanced two-stroke development. Each engine represented months of development work and hundreds of thousands of dollars in engineering costs. The engines incorporated innovations that proved Evanrude's engineers could master four-stroke technology as effectively as they had perfected two-stroke design. When BRP eventually discontinued Evanrude production in 2020, these prototype engines became some of the rarest artifacts in marine history. Most remain locked away in corporate vaults or private collections of former engineers who understood their historical significance. They represent the ultimate "what if" in outboard development. From prototype secrets to production exclusivity, our next engine represents the rarest civilian four-stroke ever offered to the public. In the late 1970s, Volvo Penta quietly built a limited run of experimental four-stroke outboards that reflected the company's trademark blend of engineering precision and durability. Borrowing heavily from their automotive and truck divisions, these prototypes featured early electronic fuel injection, ignition control, and industrial-grade materials rarely seen in marine outboards at the time. Fewer than 8 units were ever assembled, each hand-built using a mix of custom marine parts and repurposed Volvo automotive components. These engines weren't meant for mass production. They were proof-of-concept machines designed to test whether Volvo's engineering philosophy could translate to outboard performance. The result? Overbuilt, obsessively engineered prototypes that outpaced their era by decades. With advanced engine management and premium materials, they foreshadowed the four-stroke revolution long before it arrived. Ultimately, Volvo shifted its focus to inboard and stern drive systems, shelving the outboard project. Today, the surviving engines are rare artifacts of innovation, bold ideas that came just a bit too early. While European manufacturers were experimenting with precision, another company was creating an engine that would become the ultimate expression of American innovation. In 1988, Johnson's racing division quietly built what might have been the most advanced four-stroke outboard engine ever conceived. Designed in secrecy, this prototype fused decades of two-stroke racing experience with futuristic four-stroke technology. Featuring electronic fuel injection, aerospace-grade materials, and innovations like variable valve timing and electronic engine management. Only 5 engines were ever fully assembled, each hand-built by Johnson's top racing technicians and tuned to the ragged edge of mechanical performance. Titanium, carbon fiber, and precision-machined components pushed these engines far beyond anything on the market. Internal tests showed they outperformed every contemporary racing outboard, but corporate leadership pulled the plug, believing the racing world wasn't ready for a four-stroke. The project was buried in favor of two-stroke development. Today, the few remaining engines sit quietly in private collections, never raced, never forgotten. They represent the high watermark of American marine engineering, an unrealized glimpse of what could have been. From racing secrets to the final frontier of four-stroke rarity, our last engine represents the ultimate expression of exclusive marine engineering. In perhaps the most exclusive four-stroke outboard ever conceived, Lamborghini briefly explored marine propulsion in 1990 with a concept engine that incorporated technology from their exotic supercars. This wasn't just an engine, it was automotive art adapted for marine use. Only 3 engines were ever completed before Lamborghini decided to focus on their core automotive business, making these the rarest four-stroke outboards ever created. The Lamborghini Marine engine featured a sophisticated V8 design with advanced fuel injection, electronic ignition, and materials that included carbon fiber, titanium, and exotic alloys used in their flagship automobiles. Each engine was essentially hand-built by Lamborghini's most skilled technicians, with attention to detail that bordered on obsessive. The engines incorporated lessons learned from Lamborghini's racing programs and exotic car development, creating marine propulsion that delivered performance and refinement unlike anything else available. They represent the ultimate marriage of Italian design excellence and marine engineering, proving that sometimes the rarest treasures come from the most unexpected sources. There you have it, 15 four-stroke outboards so rare that most marine enthusiasts have never seen one in person. These engines represent the ultimate expression of innovation, exclusivity, and engineering excellence in marine propulsion. If this journey through four-stroke rarity revved your collector's instincts, smash that subscribe button and share this with fellow marine treasure hunters. Which of these mechanical unicorns caught your attention? Drop a comment below and let us know which rare power plant sparked your imagination.